I'm so very excited to do this Tune-Up Tuesday with you because I've got a special guest. For many of you who know my career here in the Ottawa area, I spent the last 20 years in media, 11 years on live radio and 3 years on television, interviewing cool people doing cool shit. And for the first time on Gen Zen Tune-Up Tuesday, we're having the coolest cat in the community, the world, the large world of the community, on our show, Charlie Morley, who is a Hay House author, and he is a lucid dreaming expert, shadow expert, TEDx speaker, many, many things, a cool young man doing some really fantastic stuff out in the UK. We're hoping to bring his energy to the O-Town. So I'm so very happy to bring our good new friend, Charlie Morley, to you through Gen Zen. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
Hey, how you doing? It's a pleasure to be here.
So I love it when young people are really kind of doing the cool stuff and standing in and living a new reality. You live in a Buddhist temple, is that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, so apologies for the echo. I've lived in a Buddhist center for like 7.5 years. And in fact, tomorrow I get the keys to my new apartment, the first time I bought an apartment. So this is a really interesting, yeah, back into samsara, right? So the great thing about a lot of great things about the Buddhist center. One little less great thing is it hasn't got great Wi-Fi. So I thought, I really don't want my Wi-Fi to go down during our great interview. So I'm in the yoga room, which is why it sounds like I'm in like an echoey church or something, because there's like
tube of power.
Yeah, so but we're here. We're in a spiritual place, at least.
Lucid dreaming is very popular. So lucid dreaming is shadow work. I mean, as a medicine person myself, it's all I do all the time. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that you're coming out hard with it in a good way. Your new book, Dreaming the Dream, is out for people who want to check it out. Tell us about what is lucid dreaming for the average person, and why would someone want to explore it? What value, what benefit, especially for someone who's new to this stuff, so doesn't meditate, doesn't necessarily wear the crystals or shock the rockers, you know, they're just kind of trying to be more, less stressed and more happy. Why would lucid dreaming help?
That is my forte, answering that question, because that's exactly who I want to reach out to. You know, I live in a Buddhist center, so people already into spirituality and stuff like that, they know about my stuff. Mm-hmm. But what I want to do is really be a bridge for people who maybe aren't into this stuff. So first of all, what is a lucid dream? A lucid dream is a dream where you know that you're dreaming as the dream is happening. So it's not just a really vivid dream. It's not a dream that you see future events. It's not just a really clear dream. It's specifically a dream where you're sound asleep, but within the dream itself, you wake up and go, oh, wow, this is all a dream. Now, a lot of people might have had that before, because often what happens is you wake up, you get so excited, you go, oh, wow, this is all a dream. Oh, shit. And you've suddenly woken up.
Where's Brad Pitt? Where did he go?
Yeah, where did he go? My sexual fantasies. But with planning and with practice, because this is a learnable skill, you can get to the stage where you induce lucidity on purpose. So you intentionally have the awakening of reflective awareness within the dream state. When you're in that state, once you're lucid, the elevator pitch is this. You're in a very similar state to the state that a hypnotherapist would put you into.
Right.
You are conscious within the unconscious mind. So really anything you can use to work with, anything that you would use to work with through hypnotherapy, you can also use lucid dreaming to work through. So I've worked with people who have terrible nightmares, trauma survivors. I've worked with athletes who want to use the lucid dream state to train and create neural pathways so they're better at athletics. I've worked with architects who want to go into the lucid dream and work with the three-dimensional visualization to create new blueprints. Artists who want to write new music. Spiritual practitioners who want to go in and do their meditation. From a Buddhist point of view, it's said that the lucid dream state is one of the most powerful places to do your meditation. So if you're into chanting, meditation, yoga, if you do it within the lucid dream, because you are in the depths of your unconscious mind, it's way, way more powerful. And just because you made the Brad Pitt comment, also you can have loads of fun. Yeah. You know, I started lucid dreaming when I was like 16 years old, way before I got into Buddhism. And
how did you know, like you're from the UK, you probably didn't grow up in all this, did you? Like, how did you know you were having a very sort of out of extraordinary experience?
Well, I kind of didn't, but for my 12th birthday, I asked for this thing called a Nova Dreamer, which is like this electronic sleep mask that flashes in your face and gives you lucid dreams. And I remember cutting out the advert and showing it to my dad when I was 11, going, hey, Dad, I know what I want for my birthday. So, I mean, that's all I remember, and he's confirmed that. So I guess at 11, I knew I was having lucid dreams and wanted to have more of them. Then I went back to being a kid. About 15, 16, I started to get really interested in meditation and Kung Fu and lucid dreaming and Buddhism and all this kind of cool stuff. So I buy a load of books and I teach myself how to lucid dream. But I was 16 years old. So you can imagine what I was using this huge 3-dimensional virtual reality simulation for. It was not for spiritual practice. It was for meeting girls and sexual fantasy and being really good at skateboarding and all this kind of stuff. But then a couple of years later, I got really into Buddhism. I formally became a Buddhist. And then everyone started saying that lucid dreaming was this spiritual practice. And I was like, spiritual practice? No way. I just use it to meet girls and be good at skateboarding. And the monks were like, no, this is serious, man. If you can do your spiritual practice in the lucid dream, it's seen as a really high practice. So then they taught me the practices. I learned them. I studied with my teachers. And then a few years later, when I was 25, my Buddhist teacher, Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, who's a Tibetan Lama, he said he thought it would be a good idea for me to start giving talks. And then it went from there.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you for sort of a very odd question. The Marvel movie Doctor Strange, I think, has actually pushed like the agenda so much. I'm actually taking a group to Annapurna, in fact, because of Doctor Strange in 2019. But that whole scene, you know, those scenes and sort of the awakened and how Hollywood could show you, because it's really hard for me also to describe all the mystical, magical things that I have when I do cosmic mindfulness and connection. You can't kind of describe it because you're in another world, you're visiting, you're traveling. How do you think that movie and people in general are now getting it, are starting to realize this can happen, and kids are starting to throw fireballs at each other, or like, you know, they're trying to go climb the mountains for the new worlds. I mean, I love it because that is the way, but now more people are realizing it's possible.
So the Doctor Strange thing is I'm so glad you've mentioned that, because it's a great synchronicity. My wife teaches outer body experience. She's called Jade Shaw, OB coach, I think, on Facebook. You'll find her. And she is using that clip in a workshop she's giving next week to explain the outer body experience. The specific clip where she touches him and he goes boom and he shoots out of his body, because that is a perfect example of an outer body experience. Yes. However, it's not actually so linked to lucid dreaming. Because whereas an outer body experience is the subjective sense of self leaving the physical form and experiencing reality, lucid dream is the sense of self flipping inwardly and experiencing the totality of your own psychology. Right. So in a lucid dream, everything you see is you. You are inside your own mind. So you can call out to meet your fear. You can call out to meet your shadow. You can call out to meet your fear of rejection. And you'll be meeting personal archetypes. But a movie that is really great for lucid dreaming is Inception, which a lot of people will have seen. And basically Doctor Strange did for outer body experience what Inception did for lucid dreaming. Suddenly both those movies brought this to the masses, and it's so good. And again, we had earlier incarnations of all those, but I love the fact it's sort of out there because it's in there, right? It's inside out. Absolutely. Again, my training is medicine, sort of shamanic medicine and angelic shamanic medicine, where we really were trained to deal with your emotions, the shadow, you know, process, heal, forgive, transmute, move through, and that's how you sort of wake up. There's a lot of backlash about shadow work lately, in my community anyway, where people seem, from my opinion, doing some spiritual escapism. They're skipping the step. They're just saying, be the ball, be at peace, think it, and you will be it. I'm like, yeah, but you got to take care of the stuff that's in between that. What's your opinion of this? Some people are trying to escape. Yeah, I totally agree. So I just wrote a book about this called Dreaming Through Darkness, which is all about shadow integration, not just through lucid dreaming, but through the waking state too. And I did a 5-hour online course called Embracing the Shadow. So I've gone really deeply into this over the last couple of years. And what you're describing there perfectly defines what's called spiritual bypassing, which is the tendency to overlook or negate the natural human messiness of the unenlightened condition in favor of thinking happy thoughts even if you feel like shit, and totally denying unenlightened qualities. And that is a one-way ticket to depression, repression, and a stagnation of our spiritual growth until we face ourselves and see that, yes, although love and light is the end goal, at the moment we are not all in love and light all of the time. And that's not failure. That's okay. and to actually go into our shadow and say, you know what, I do still get really jealous, or I do still have sexual trauma stuff, or I do still have anger issues, is actually the best way to integrate our anger, our jealousy, and our sexual trauma. Because what we don't know about controls us. What we can face, name, and integrate, we gain control over. So actually, paradoxically, by going, as you know, paradoxically, by going into the shadow, by owning our darkness, we prevent ourselves from acting it out. The safest thing we can do is to own our own shadow, and the most dangerous thing we can do is spiritual bypassing, pretending we don't have a shadow.
I'm so glad you said it, because when I say it, people, and I'm like, yeah.
Oh God, me too. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
But this is true. There is no way around it.
Good. I'm glad it's official. Charlie said so.
Oh God, it's not official I say it, but my teachers have said it, and I really trust them too.
They're for thousands of years for a reason, right?
Exactly.
It's okay. And again, I'm not saying you can't get to that place of think if the man is, I get that, but you got to clear the junk in the middle, and absolutely experiences along the way. So the book, Dreaming in the Darkness, when people pick it up, what is it that they'll get out of the book? Because people are learning, right? Your webinars, your website, charliemorley.com, full of information. I encourage people to go check out. What particular, though, this book, of all of them, what do you want what is the hope or the intent behind it?
So when I was researching the book, I obviously read everything I could find on shadow work that I hadn't read. I'd read all the Jungian stuff and the Buddhist stuff, but all the current stuff. And what I realized was there were a lot of great theories about shadow work out there, and a lot of wonderful philosophical tomes about what the shadow is and the shadow of the world. And I was like, that these books have like 5 exercises in them. I want practical stuff. So what I wanted to do was made a book that was exercise heavy. So this book has over 30 practical exercises. Yes, it's got some interesting theories on the shadow, but much more than that. It's practical daytime exercises. So meditations, contemplations, writing exercises, art therapy exercises, mask work exercises, mirror exercises, eye gazing, as well as the stuff people expect from me, all the lucid dreaming stuff, meeting your shadow in the dream and stuff like that. So it is without doubt the most practical book on the shadow out there now. I'm not saying it's the best book on the shadow out there now, but it is absolutely the most practical book about shadow integration on the market at the moment. And the course is the same.
I mean, I studied with Debbie Ford, so she was one of the
pioneer.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's how old I am anyway. But and then I went into the medicine people who in the Aboriginal community knew all this and laughed because they've been doing it this way.
Like,
but Buddhism,
finally,
yeah, but Buddhism very similar. If there was a religion closest to medicine work. And again, I see every block as shadow. Like I can take the person there, and lucid dreaming, I've never done. Well, I don't think I've done. I can't say, I don't think I have. So I'm actually very interested because I love my toolkit. I love, adding to what I already know to do. I already have trippy, experiences, but I can't imagine if I had some context, new tools, how better I will be. So just on this conversation, if you could give people 1 or 2 practical techniques or suggestions, what would they be?
To get lucid.
Yeah, without
absolutely
ungrounded or destabilized or whatever.
Well, this is the cool thing when people worry like, should ungrounded people be doing lucid dreaming? The grounded nature of mind is required to get lucid. So there's kind of an inherent self-regulation mechanism here that ungrounded people will just find it so hard to get lucid. So actually it's fine. It requires ground. Yeah. But here are my kind of 3 top tips. Number 1, set your intention to remember your dreams. People might be thinking, I haven't remembered a dream in 10 years. I would say, when did you last try to remember a dream? And people look at me as if it's like a trick question. And I say, no, really, tonight I want you to try. So as you fall asleep, say, tonight I remember my dreams. I have excellent dream recall. If you fall asleep really trying, really desiring to remember your dreams, often you will. So this is the first thing, strong intention to remember. The next thing is to write down our dreams in some way. So you can document them in a classic dream diary. I mean, I've done retreats where we do dance retreats and we dance our dreams and stuff.
Oh, right on.
You could dance, but most people will diarize their dreams in some way. Yeah. The reason we keep our dreams in the dream diary is so we can start to spot patterns.
Yes.
Because let's say you write down your dreams for a couple of weeks and then you look back over them and you say, oh, look, I always dream of my dead grandmother. Or a couple of times a week, I dream I'm naked in public or whatever it is. You start spotting these signs, these patterns. And then you create a trigger. You say, well, if I only see my dead grandma in my dream, then I just need to create a trigger that dead grandma equals dreaming. Naked in public, for most people, equals dreaming, or whatever their dream sign is.
Yeah.
If you can do that and create the trigger, then the next time you see your dead grandmother in the dream, the trigger becomes engaged and you'll go, oh, wait, I'm actually dreaming right now. And then once you're lucid, the prefrontal cortex switches on, you go into gamma brainwave, the brain goes into intense neurological activity, and the potential for healing and spiritual practice is greatly, greatly increased.
Love it. Now, you're actually, so lucid dreaming is you are asleep, but awake in the dream. Awake in the dream, though. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not kind of half asleep, kind of yoga nidra style stuff, although that can be used to train for it. You know, a lucid dreamer is out for the count. They've done all the studies at Harvard and Max Planck Institute. This is now science fact. And the kind of stuff they've done on athletes, they've shown that you can get lucid. And if you practice your javelin throw in the lucid dream, or you practice press ups, you actually can do more press ups and throw your javelin further in the waking state. I mean, this is insane. But then let's think about, what if we practice compassion and love rather than javelin throwing and press ups? Then things get really interesting.
Yeah, or anything that you're studying or trying to acquire knowledge or relationships. I mean, any practical, you know, one of Tiger Woods's a sports psychologist lives in Ottawa. When he was competing. So when he was competing, she was from Scotland, lives in Ottawa, happened to know her, and we would talk a lot about, just because he was Tiger Woods, I golf, you know, he was the best golfer back in the day. And she said, oh yeah, we apply these spiritual kind of concepts. Now she's called a sports psychologist, so she'll label it different, but she knew what I did. And she says, oh yes, you know, be the ball, see the ball, like see yourself, you know. A lot of professional athletes, we've got our own hockey team here. I'm sure they have their, you know, their sports support, whatever they're going to call them.
Yeah.
But again, this is all ancient stuff. This is where it's, I find it interesting, is anyone can do this. Can children do this? Is there an age for children? Is there?
Well, 2 Harvard studies showed that lucid dreaming is actually a natural, spontaneous arising of the childhood mind. So around the age of 6 or 7, I think it's probably younger, but their study began with children at the age of 6 or 7. They showed that lucid dreaming was natural. Not every child every night, but it's totally normal for a child to start lucid dreaming. So actually what happens is we forget how to lucid dream. As kids, we're doing it all the time. So this is important to know. You're not learning from scratch. You don't need to learn to lucid dream. You need to remember. And how do we remember? By remembering how to be a child. So a lot of the ways I teach connect with the inner child, because your inner child remembers what it's like to be awake in its dreams.
So what happens when the dreams are not happy, or like, again, Inception, not every floor, you know, was happy for him to sort of walk through, especially when you are dealing with the child. I have a 5-year-old who's super intuitive. He got double doses of it with his family choice, and now does a lot of things that I don't access. And so it's hard for me sometimes to support him in his dream state. How do you feel protected, and what do you do to make sure you're safe in the dream? If that's a question you understand. Yeah,
no, that's great, because this combines both shadow work and lucid dreaming. From a shadow work point of view, we can actually get excited to have nightmares, because there's no greater way to see what shadows are still there, are still blocking us, than to have nightmares. So to combine them in a lucid dream, a lot of people, their first lucid dream is an experience of a nightmare, because they get so scared in the nightmare, their awareness gets boosted. They go, oh wow, this is actually all a dream. Now then people try and wake up. My one piece of advice would be this: if you are lucky enough to become lucid in a nightmare, don't wake yourself up. Every time you wake yourself from a nightmare, the shadow material that's causing the nightmare just says, okay, see you next week. And that's why our nightmares recur, but our dreams of Brad Pitt don't, because the dreams of Brad Pitt are fully integrated. Well, oh, I love that. We don't need to have it again.
I mean, it's close.
Your choice.
I have options.
So if we can get lucid in a nightmare, this is actually a really good thing, because then we can intentionally integrate that shadow material. And in fact, from this point of view, there's nothing to be protected from, because the nightmare is an expression of our own mind. Wonderful. It can seem so dualistic, but we want to move towards it and show it love.
Yes. Question came up, because we only have about 1 minute left.
Sure thing. Yeah.
I love talking to you, so I'd love to have you back.
Yeah, me too. It's pretty fun.
Shadows come from past lives. Like, do the Buddhist concept of lucid dreaming take into karmic connections from other timelines?
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, past life dreams within Buddhism aren't really seen as they are in the West, where we go, oh, wow, I had a past life dream. From a Buddhist point of view, unless you were enlightened in your past life, having a dream of your past life isn't such a big deal because you were unenlightened then, you're unenlightened now. So what's the big deal of dreaming about it? But from a lucid point of view, yes, it's very interesting because you can use lucidity to explore past life habits. What's the point? Apart from ego tripping and going, oh, I was the Queen of Egypt or whatever. Okay, it's not about that. It's about seeing, these are the past residues. So if I can be aware of my past residues, they'll have a less controlling influence on me. So again, knowledge is power with this. If we can be aware of where we've come from, we know where we're at.
And to have the sense that I'm in control in the dream though, like, so instead of like the monster coming at me or the fear, it's part of who you are. So knowing that you have an empowered state within every realm, right? Whatever place you're walking.
Perfect point. Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I started working with veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan who were having terrible nightmares. Now, the reason lucid dreaming was so good for them was because they could get lucid and say, oh, okay, I'm not back in Iraq. I'm dreaming I'm back in Iraq. I am now the one who's in charge. And yes, I am traumatized. Yes, this is scary, but it is simply my mind. And that can be hugely empowering. For trauma victims of childhood abuse. Lucid dreaming can really help empower us and say, my mind doesn't rule me. You know, the mind can be a friend that I work with, not against.
And one common question people get asked, and I just want to see if you have any answer. If you die in your dream, does that have a meaning?
Yeah, and it's great. You know, what is death? Death is rebirth. It's the end of the old, beginning of new. So people freak out about this. And they also say, what if I die in a lucid dream? In fact, one of the highest practices, I wouldn't advise people to do this, but I'm just saying it. One of the highest practices in lucid dreaming is actually to intentionally die in the lucid dream. Because to be able to move into death fearlessly, knowing that death is as much an illusion as the dream you are in, and in fact you're in the safety of your own bed, moves you deeply into the awareness of the empty nature of the dream. So in fact, you get to a point where you look forward to dying in a dream. I know that sounds crazy and extreme, but it's about entering a non-dual awareness that there is nothing to die and there is no one who dies.
Yes. And I know in my meditations of memories of ancient Egyptology, where they threw you in with alligators to get to the higher level, you had to die. You had to, like, literally, not physically,
absolutely,
but, you know, shamanic, like any priestess going to the higher warrior level, you have to go through those doors. And just like Inception, or there's another movie where it's a brand new one too, and it's a young girl, and she has to, it's oh my gosh, the Dystonia Society. Oh my God, it'll come to me. Where she actually is part of this new cast of kids, and she has to.
And she becomes lucid in the kind of a computer thing, and then
not a wall. I'm, you know,
that's so cool.
And they're hunting, hunting the special whatever.
Oh, what's it called?
Yeah, it was awesome because I think it was the lucid dreaming where they put her in a, you know, they put the things on to see how her brain.
No, not insurgent, transcendent or insurgent or something like that.
You know, and then
anyway, viewers will know. Someone write it in the comments box if they know.
All these movies. See, I grew up with movies, right? Visuals, like music and movies that sort of stimulated our generation. And I think it's fantastic that yours is picking it up and taking it further. And my child is now benefiting from all of our work, you know, pushing the agenda of what is possible. And Buddhism has always said, you know, it's here, right? It's always
absolutely
here. And I love that. It just comes back to us. So I really appreciate your chat. I know we've kind of gone over time today, but I wanted to thank you so much, Charlie. A big shout out to Owen Sound, Eleanor Rinney, who you know, put this all together. All my people from Owen Sound that I haven't seen in so long, come to Ottawa because we're going to bring Charlie, and we're going to do a big workshop and tete-a-tete and have some fun with some cool people. Again, I love cool people doing cool shit. So Charlie Morley, thank you for being one of the many that are pushing, you know, us forward as a human being.
Cool people doing cool shit. Let's go.
Yeah. So charliemorley.com. Please get his new book, Dreaming the Dream. Again, you're
Dreaming Through Darkness.
Yeah, sorry, Dreaming the Darkness, pardon me. And of course, your online workshops are available, and you have a ton of YouTube videos.
Everything's on the website,
Yeah. And again, dream a little dream with Charlie, and we'll have you back next time.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Peace and love to, and happy, congratulations on your wedding and your marriage. And now you're getting booted back into reality out of the Buddhist temple. Yeah,
I get my keys to my new apartment tomorrow. I'll be leaving the Buddhist center after 7.5 years.
Yeah, enjoy it. It's a trip. And we'll check out your wife one last thing. Your Jade Shaw, was it?
Yeah, Jade Shaw, OBE coach. So out of body experience coach. You'll find her on Facebook.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Stay tuned
Great.
for another Gen Zen every Tuesday. Remember, when it's dark outside, keep the light on inside. Peace.
Yeah.